Okay, this is part 2. Now I talked briefly about the steam pressure settings. Now one guy left me a message. He wanted to know, because you said you was having some problems with your radiators and you were saying that you have the one pipe steam system. I probably would recommend that you go with Gordon's valves. And if it's a house that you have that you control your own heat, I would say do a test run one day and just put the thermostat up all the way and then see how long it takes before every single radiator in that house heats up. If it should heat up within about a half an hour to about 40 minutes. And once you get to around that time frame, you should go downstairs and check and see whether your pressure gauge on your boiler registers at any pressure. That's one of the key things when it comes down to distributing proper heat. You gotta have a proper amount of steam pressure, but you never need a lot. For a private house, you can use 2 pounds of steam pressure. That's more than enough to heat that up. If it's not heating it up for whatever reason, then I would say check your air vents and make sure that they're venting properly. I would say if you have adjustable air vents that are giving problems, then, or basically freezing up like you described in your message, I would say to remove those air vents. If you do choose to go with adjustable air vents, I would recommend to go with Hoffman, because they have an adjustable air vent that works pretty well, and it's honestly, Hoffman are pretty well for venting out radiators. So I would recommend that you go with those. I don't know what type of boiler that you have, if you have a natural gas boiler or whether you have a oil boiler with a forced fan combustible burner. There's really not too much to worry about when it comes down to that. I don't know what kind of thermostat that you would have either. You might want to try getting a digital thermostat to see what goes on. There's a couple of things that can be done as far as that's concerned. The one thing, or the things that I would need to know, and if you could even post me a video of what you actually have, that would better yet help me to further be able to assist you, because I can see and more or less know what to say. I would say the first thing to try to do is see what radiators get hot the fastest. Doesn't matter if give me 1 second. Okay. I would say check and see which radiators in your house are the first ones to heat up. In some cases, I've seen private houses where the radiators on the upper floors heat up faster than the ones on the bottom floor. Whichever radiators you have closest to the thermostat, you want to make sure that those are the last ones to heat up. So I would say if you have adjustable vents or vents of different sizes, put the smaller ones on the radiators that are closest, or the ones that operate the thermostat control temperature. So that way you can manipulate it and somewhat be able to balance out the heat just a little better, so that way the place stays a little more comfortable. Now one thing that I do, that well, with this system here, it's different because we have a timer that controls the heat, and basically before I can establish heat, there's a sensor that's hooked up to one of my return lines, and that basically would tell me how hot the system is, and I can pretty much do it like that. But I never go off of temperature alone. The only way I can truly distribute proper steam is by checking through the pressure gauge to see how much steam pressure is on that gauge that you see exactly behind me. And when I get to about 2.5 pounds of steam pressure, I pretty much know that my entire building has been filled with steam. Now, whether the apartments are fully satisfied, that's a different story, but at least I know for the most part that those apartments are getting the heat. So I would say you can try a couple of things like that. I would say the radiators that heat up on the further sides, or that take the longest to heat up, put the larger vents on those radiators. I would say either go with Gordon's, but Gordon's are more or less for the riser pipes. Gordon's are not the best as far as venting a radiator, so you probably want to go with the adjustable Hoffman air vents. So in a little while I'm going to fire up this boiler and I'm going to show you my operation. But before I even do that, a lot of people will take a look at a burner like this and get it twisted with an older style burner, which is known as the Rotary Burner, which has a atomizing cup that pretty much spins around and throws the oil inside of the combustion chamber and ignites it through a gas pilot. It pretty much has this whole operation set up like that. These burners are not known for, or better yet, the Rotary Burner is not one of the most efficient burners, so that's why they pretty much replaced them. They're pretty much obsolete to this day. They replaced them with these D-series IC burners, which I guess when they did the overhaul, they painted over the labeling and things, so I couldn't even show you. But these are pretty efficient burners. These are actually very good burners, and I'm going to show you what it comprises of. So I'm going to open up this burner door, and we can take a look inside. Okay. Like I mentioned, there is no cup inside of this burner. There's only a nozzle. And you can see on these components on the far right hand side, on the upper right hand side, what you are looking at is the sensor, the photocell basically, which determines or detects whether the boiler has a flame ignition or flame ignited inside of it. And if that flame is not established within 2 to 4 seconds, it will cut the burner off completely. And this is the device that you're looking at here, which is the photocell. I mean, sorry about that. This is the pilot. Sorry, okay, I made a mistake. This is the pilot light. This basically, this burner ignites with gas, and then it has its primary combustion through oil. Okay, so what you're looking at is the pilot, and then this is the oil ignition. So the pilot comes on for about 2 to 4 seconds. The photocell is up here. I don't know if you can see it, but it's what I'm pointing at, this little device. And if this does not see a flame within 2 to 4 seconds, it will cut out the entire ignition. Now the last line that you are seeing on the left-hand side, this pipeline right here, this is for the air compressor. Now the air compressor I got is right over here. Before you can burn oil, you have to properly atomize it. So when you atomize the oil, it pretty much breaks it down into a mist, making it easier to be fired up, because if you just throw oil inside of a combustion chamber and try to light it, it's not going to ignite, especially number 6 oil. Now there's 3 different grades of oil that are burned currently in New York City today, and honestly they're making number 6 oil obsolete. The easiest grade of oil to burn is number 2 oil. It's also the cleanest grade of oil to burn, but it also gives you the less or the fewest of BTUs. The cleanest thing to actually burn will be natural gas, so I did jump the gun there, but that's not considered an oil, which will give you less BTUs, but it will give you far less problems. But it's just a little more expensive than when it comes down to 6 oil. The second heaviest grade of oil will be number 4 oil, which will give you more BTUs than number 2 or gas or gas. But it's also a little lighter than number 6 oil and a little bit cleaner. I've worked with it before as well, and honestly I don't prefer working with any of these heavy grades of oil, but the heaviest grade of oil would be number 6 oil. It is the nastiest grade of oil, but the fortunate part is it's the most cheapest grade of oil, and it'll also give you the most amount of BTUs for your dollar. So I think I pretty much discussed a lot of things about this. I'm going to describe one other thing, and then I'm going to, in a little while, fire this bad boy up. If I can just mount this back on it. Okay, here we go. Close this and make sure the gasket's still proper. Oh. Come on, get on here, damn it. Okay, so there's, like I mentioned before, there's a modulating motor on this burner. Alright, so let me point that out to you right now. This burner comprises of many different safety features. Alright, basically when you go to ignite this burner, when you go to fire this burner up, it's never going to just come right on immediately. Basically what's going to happen is you're going to get this blower motor, which is going to come on, and it's going to run about maybe 1 to 2 minutes before it actually ignites, and that's called a pre-purge stage or pre-purge phase. Basically the pre-purge phase is to make sure that it blows out any gases that are inside of this combustion chamber, because if this remaining gas is sitting inside of the combustion chamber or filled inside of the combustion chamber, and if the burner just immediately ignites, you can have an explosion, which can be detrimental, and honestly it can be a life-threatening situation if someone is in the boiler room at that time. So the people who designed this burner came up with a system called a pre-purge phase, which basically runs for about 2 minutes and pushes all the airs out, and then it goes back down low and ignites it. So basically what you have here is multiple different settings. This burner can go from high flame to low flame. It'll always ignite at low flame. Currently I have it on automatic, but and this is the auto switch right here, and this works only with the steam system when you're operating steam. In the summertime, if you're making hot water, this has no use for the boiler at all. The only thing that it'll do is it'll just bring the burner flame up to high. But if you're running it on summer settings, you can pretty much put it to wherever you want. And in the summer settings, I keep it to low just to burn out any excess carbon. But pretty much wherever I set this is where this will go. But if I put the automatic switch on, this will completely override this right here. So like I said, pretty much when I'm making steam heat and I want to have this on automatic, pretty much what I'm going to have is this device here working in conjunction with this burner. So when this pressure gauge gets to about 2.5 or 3 pounds of steam pressure, this device here is going to tell the burner to drop the flame and bring it down to about 2 pounds of steam pressure. Or better yet, not even, sorry about that. It would basically, it would just hold it there rather than cutting off the operation completely. It would just hold it and keep it at 3 pounds of steam pressure until the heat cycle cuts off completely. Alright, so I think it's about time to fire up this boiler. Before I do that, let me get my pumps going. Now I want you to take a look at various different stages or phases that this boiler is going to go through as I fire it up. I want you to take a look at the modulating pan. If you take a close look, you're going to see it's going to go, it's on the pre-purge phase right now. See that the air is slowly pulling back into high fire. And like I said, this is a safety feature to keep gases or keep an explosion from occurring inside of the boiler in case any gases have not been vented out. This will pretty much force out any unnecessary gases or unwanted gases out of the combustion chamber until it is ready for primary ignition. For about a minute, and then it'll bring it back down into the low fire setting, and then it will come on for primary ignition. You're going to see the gas powered ignite. That right there is the gas ignition. On low fire, which I'm going to throw it back up to high fire in just a few minutes. But I want you to take a look at the back of this flame here. Now the components of having a good fire, if I can adjust this. Okay, the components of having a good fire is to have a clean, bright yellow flame which you can't even look into with your bare eyes. Basically, you want to have a yellow flame. Now some people will say that you want to have a flame with red tips, which I pretty much don't go for because those are the less efficient flames and the flames that pretty much burn smoke. But you don't want to burn any type of smoke when you're operating your boiler. Alright, so now I'm about to throw it back into high fire. another part to this video because this video is getting kind of long as well. So this is going to be a 3-phase video.